Hello, my name is Shantanu, and this is a more philosophical video than any of my previous videos, and it's about progress, change, and the delusion that comes with both of those confusing things, probably. So, what is progress? In a way, all progress is change, and the first and foremost indicator of progress is human evolution, and we have evidence for it. We look at our non-human primate ancestors or cousins, and we realize that we've come a long way, and we don't have to walk on four legs. We can talk, we can interact, we're socially fit, and it's more of an indicator of a biological adaptation and natural selection, as Darwin would have it. Now that's for us as species. Social progress would be something that, where we kind of move on from us as species, and we learn to organize things without exploitation, without wars, without any kind of conflict, and just handling things more peacefully. That would be an indicator of social progress for sure. Condorcet was deeply vocal about his views on social progress, and increased literacy was another part of it, certainly. Modernization is another very very recently addressed thing, where there is a transformation in society, in terms of the way you think, and the various social evolutionary theories, Auguste Comte, and all those studies about how society evolves as a whole, how culture affects the evolution, and what plays a role in that kind of an evolution. But I'm not concerned about that. I might make a different video about that as a subfield and as a different school of thought altogether. But this is more about the individualistic perspective about progress, the more individualistic approach to progress. So like I said, all progress is change, but all change is not necessarily progress. And as we move forward and we have all these scientific innovations and technological evolutions that sort of, let's say, started with the scholastic era of the Renaissance, and we learned to think scientifically, we've come a long way. We've found ways to communicate, we've found ways to reach people across boundaries, to have various opinions sent out to lands that are far away, and we've basically shrunk the distance between cultures and between people and between various schools of thought. So what that brings us to is this whole pool of social media, where information, essentially, whether it's multicultural or it has multiple origins in multiple ways, it will find its way to social media, which is like this open ground that anybody can access. So what this participation in such a network, in such a broad platform, such as social media or mainstream media does, is that it puts in front of you the lifestyles of different people, regardless of background, regardless of nationality, regardless of anything. And really that's a good thing, because that it brings us closer, like I said. But what it also does is that it unfortunately makes you have this desirability for something that is different rather than something that is better. And so it makes you think that anything that is different, let's say a person in a different place, a person having different set of luxuries, a person having a different kind of a life, is better than yours. And that's something that comes from the advent or the nature of social media, where our attention spans have shrunk considerably, and so we might cut to the chase quicker than people would have in the earlier eras. And certainly their problems were different. Their threshold and nature of what it means to progress was different. They had slavery, there were wars, there were exploitation and in various places of the world, and to overcome that was a big progress for us. And right now we're in a world where our understanding of progress has changed dramatically, and that also comes from natural selection and the way we evolved, because we have the ability to imagine, unlike any of the other mammals or even non-human primates. We can imagine scenarios, we can dream, and dream is the most unique factor that we have. And though animals dream, our dreams often blur with reality, because that's how we think about life. And it's such an abstract thing, dream as a concept. And there are various takes on dreams. There's Descartes, there's Freud, there's so many various philosophies in relation to dream. But I think that anything that's abstract can remain consistent, because that's the way life functions. So, and anything that's specific is bound to disappoint you. But because of our reduced attention spans, we will rightly choose the specific side of it. You can't dream specifically. Dream is always more abstract and complex than what you would have it to be, and that's why it's a dream, because it's a part of our subconscious in a way. And then even as a dream in terms of aspiration and ambition, somebody that says, I want to go on the moon, that's a dream, because it's an abstract thing. But somebody that says, well, I'm going to be first command on the space shuttle that goes to the moon in so and so year, is too specific. And anybody who's driven to such a specific thing will end up being disappointed. And that's why this ability to constantly, or this kind of dependency on being indifferent, just flourishes in today's world, and especially today's generation. There is a great lecture series actually by a man named Peter Schoenaerts, I think, or yeah, Peter Schoenaerts, and it's more about the progress and change that involves in business setting, and how the accountability of change and progress can vary, and can also be terribly erroneous. And the basic factor is that, let's say, an organization functions, and it functions depending on various factors, various levels and various hierarchies of employees. Whenever a company would succeed, you can't specifically say that there is one factor that is involved in this company succeeding. You have to take into account the various ways that the various stages of this particular organization or company works. You can't just make one thing credible and move ahead. And so it's actually Progress versus Change, if I'm not mistaken. I'll drop the link below. But it's an interesting subject to discuss, because even us as an individual probably is we can look at ourselves as an organization, and we have our various factors that come into play when we exist, when we move ahead, when we make an action, or we make a decision. Our experiences, our thinking, our abilities, our physical abilities, our mental strengths all come into play. And so to give the credit to one thing would just result in another sort of indication for our reduced attention span, probably, because we are quick to arrive at a conclusion rather than giving it enough thought. And that's just the way this whole world works now. It has to be fast, it has to be quick, no thought put into it, no waste of time. That's how social media works. It's like, if you're on the train, well, you're on the train, but if you miss it, you miss it by 1,000 miles. And though that is innovation in progress, probably, I cease to believe that it is in any way a mass level of progress for humans as a race. It might just be another change that is posing as progress, the progress delusion. Thank you.